Grateful that they are here. Our site level administrators, Abby Arbrun at Forest Grove Elementary School. And Emily Sy Brownfield of Robert Down Elementary School. I'm not sure if Emily is here yet, but she will be here shortly. We have some district level administrators in the house tonight. Director of Food Services, Robert Silvera. Director of Educational Technology, Matthew Binder. Executive Director of Student Services, Yolanda Cork Anthony. Chief Human Resources Officer, Buck, did I see Buck? Yeah, there's Buck there. I thought I saw you, Buck Road. We also have School Board Clerk Jennifer McNary in the house. And before I hand it over to Abby and Emily, oh, and we have our CBO, Josh Jorn. Before I hand it over to Abby and Emily, I want to introduce our superintendent, Dr. Linda Adamson.
Thank you for that wonderful opening, Dr. Hedquist, and I love that you are seeing former students in the room, and that's what makes PG USD so dear. And being probably maybe one of the newest members here as part of the district. I'm in my second year as proud superintendent. That is exactly what I have learned upon coming into joining this incredible family, is the fact that there are so many who have either had their children coming through them, or had their parents be a part of our incredible schools, and maybe were students themselves, and now you are ready to enroll your own students. So that is definitely what makes this district so special. So I just want to say just a quick warm word of welcome. Thank you all for prioritizing tonight, for being here. It is, as Larry already indicated, just a night of really good and helpful information, and we're just really proud that you have been able to set the time aside. We also have several online, and that's the beauty about today, right? That we now have this ability to use technology in such incredible ways, so people can access information like tonight from the comfort of their own home, where they maybe need to be with their own children. So again, thank you. You will hear from me a little later on tonight, but I really just wanted that chance to extend that warm word of welcome. And again, this is, I know for many of you, your first introduction to PGUSD, and so we hope that that's a good one, and that's the reason we are all here this evening. So again, thank you. Back to you.
So I'm going to welcome up Abby Arbrun and Emily Sy Brownfield, our two principals, to introduce their staff. And these are the TK and kinder teachers. If you want to.
Top first grade for 10 years. I'm good. Hi, I'm Abby Arbrun, principal over at Forest Grove, and I see so many familiar faces tonight and also so many new ones. We are so excited to have your student join us in the fall, regardless of if you're returning or if you're coming back for more. I'll let Emily introduce herself, and then we'll intro our teams.
Hi, my name is Emily Sy Brownfield, and I am the principal of Robert Down Elementary. And it's been such an exciting year for me, because this is my first year here, and I'm learning more about the PG community and the culture here, and working with our amazing staff.
So teaching TK for us at Forest Grove, we currently have Miss Teresa McDaniel. We also have Miss Tanya Fatham.
Yeah, buddy.
And for kindergarten, we have, there she is, Summer Wright. And we also have Kristen Sweeney in kindergarten.
At Robert Down, we currently have 2 TK classes this year. We have Miss Erica Chavez, Katie Spadoni, and we have 3 kindergarten teachers this year. We have Christina Renteria, Julie Kelly, and Marissa Alt. we've had a fabulous year so far with our K students, and we expect to have an amazing year coming up also.
I can't wait to see it keep expanding.
Yeah.
Each year it just keeps getting better as we get stronger and stronger in their program. So looking forward to more next year. So you might be wondering what some of the things you'll see in here in TK and Kinder are. Please know that first and foremost, this is our kids' intro to being in school. So our focus is really, sorry, I'm going rogue on the script. Our focus is really teaching them that very first school experience, making them love school, and then starting to dabble in academics. They do work really, really hard, but we also get them used to what it means to even be at school because this is their first exposure.
So it's really about making sure that they have plenty of time to explore their surroundings, explore their relationships with their peers, as well as with the adults on campus, engaging with a wide variety of content that we have available for our TK and K students. And then also learning to ask questions and the appropriate time to ask questions. I know that you have all experienced life with 3, 4, 5-year-olds. There's always a lot of questions, a lot of opportunities to engage them as they're learning about the world around them. Some of the things that you might see or hear in our TK and kindergarten classes, we really work on, teachers are building those relationships with students. And so they're having the opportunity to work with smaller groups of students at times, at different times of the day. Students are also working with one another. They're learning how to navigate the give and take and their wants versus understanding somebody else's desires and wants. And then also working to find out what it means to be part of a whole school community and a whole class community.
I think that sums it up beautifully. Your students will come home and they will learn more than you ever thought possible. And they will grow so much in that first year. It's always amazing to watch them just turn into these great little scholars.
Are we back to you?
Yep, thank you. What is transitional kindergarten? Transitional kindergarten is really a part of a state initiative that there's a long story behind it. It goes all the way back to 2010, but it was creating like developmentally appropriate curriculum for students in the kindergarten classes. So there was a phase out of the younger students that were formerly in kindergarten. So some of you that are my age and having jump scares seeing former students, in the room, would remember that the cutoff date for kindergarten back then was December 2nd. And so they phased it back all the way back to September. But those students that were being excluded because of the elimination of the 4-year-olds from the classroom needed a place to go. And so they were housed in transitional kindergarten classes. And so we had a group of students. It was a small group of students, the ones that were being excluded, that had birthdays between that September 2nd and December 2nd. And then the state slowly expanded. There was an expansion. This was several years later. That phase took a little bit of time, that transition from December 2nd to September 2nd. And then several years later, we started expanding the TK. That small group of students became bigger and bigger. And so with the goal of including more 4-year-olds into the transitional kindergarten class, Dr. Adamson is going to be speaking to that in a little bit. There are new learning foundations. So there were formerly preschool learning foundations, and the state of California recently published the preschool transitional kindergarten learning foundations, which really outline the program for the TK students. And that program covers all different subjects, and it really is the first year of a 2-year kindergarten program. So the idea is to get the students ready for kindergarten. It has the same calendar as kindergarten, the same registration process, which we'll be going over today. as kindergarten, and it's located on both campuses. Like I mentioned, Dr. Adams is going to speak a little bit to the idea of the cutoff dates in a moment. For the kindergarten, it's pretty straightforward. We have a September 1st cutoff date. If your student turns 5 on or before September 1st, they're in kindergarten. And I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Josh Jorn, who will speak a little bit about residency.
Thanks, Dr. Eckles.
You bet.
So Pacific Grove Unified School District is a basic aid school district. So there is a residency process that all flows through the assistant superintendent's office. And my staff reviews that information. It starts with registering your students or pre-registering your students, which most of you have done already, through each one of your respective elementary school campuses. We have it up. We also have an interactive map on our site that shows our trustee boundary areas. You can kind of zoom in a bit more. But you can see here, it's a portion of Pebble Beach and then all of Pacific Grove proper. To attend our schools, you have to live within the boundary area. And registration, I'll talk about in just a minute, but that does start May 5th for the school district. Dr. Adams.
So I think just as far as the attendance piece of it, there are a few components, just more logistics that, I want to be able to share with all of you this evening. We'll, be available for questions as well if there are specific unique circumstances that you really have questions about, that really speak to your specific students. But I think the first piece that I just want to, sort of address that Dr. Hatlis, just alluded to it a little at the beginning of the presentation, really has to do with the age requirements. So, the universal pre-kindergarten program, which is really came about as a result of state legislation that Larry talked about a little earlier. There has been that phase in process that we've been following for the past few years that really allowed for us to enroll younger students for TK. What we are very much aware of is that what the state mandates have been this year is that for next school year, 25-26, that year, the September 1st date becomes mandatory, that all students who turn 4 by September 1st would be eligible for TK, so for transitional kindergarten. I do want to, preface this now with just saying that what we, with this mandate, there has been a lot of new information that we've been receiving this past year. What I will say, and we jokingly talk about in education, is that one thing that you can absolutely rely on is what you think of and know, today may very well change tomorrow, and that has definitely been the case with this particular legislation this past year. In fact, some of the information we were receiving at the beginning of this year was very likely, and it appeared at one point that the state was going to be extending that date and really not putting that mandate into place for next year because it does involve required funding that school districts receive. So when you really go to Educational Code and read about that legislation specifically, it really has that specific language that says this mandate will be enforced beginning 25-26 school year, contingent on apportionment, so contingent on funding that would be designated to each school district in order to go about planning, for that change, hiring additional teachers if need be, but really also just preparing their schools to welcome their younger learners. One thing that not everyone in this room may be aware of is that Pacific Grove Unified School District is what is referred to as a basic aid district. And essentially what that means is that we are a community funded school district, which means we receive the majority of all of our funding from property taxes within our district boundary area. That includes parts of Pebble Beach as well. I'm always very cognizant of the fact that when we talk about PG, we definitely have families who are here, within our boundary areas who come from Pebble Beach as well. Basic aid districts don't necessarily don't necessarily fall within some of the legislation that the state mandates on what is referred to as local control funding formula schools. And so that would be a district, any other district that is not considered basic aid, where they get the majority of their funding from the state. So what this really boils down to is that what we're learning, and really a lot of the guidance we've been receiving, is that as a basic aid district, we would not be required to put into effect that new age
deadline of September 1st, that we could, as a district, make that decision to maintain the current June 3rd deadline, which means students turning, in order to be eligible for TK for next year, students would need to be full by June 3rd, which is our current cutoff date. I want to share with all of you tonight, which I know is not going to be for those of you whose students fall in between with their birthdays between June 3rd and September 1st. We have not made any official decisions on that. We are hoping to, within the next few weeks, be able to share that information and make that official as to what our plan will be as a district. As I said, this continues to evolve, and even as early as yesterday, we've received additional information that really impacts our ability to make that decision. Just some of the the components that would fall into that really do come down to a fiscal component. Again, as a basic aid district, if we're not receiving the additional funding to really open up our doors to our younger learners, and if that does require additional staffing, which it would, we would really have to carry the additional cost that change would make. So again, that definitely has to fall into our decision making. We are fortunate here at Pacific Grove Unified School District that we do offer a state preschool program. So there is, we do have the program functioning to be able to definitely accommodate families who, want to enroll their students in an early, education program. And so, those will be conversations that we will have individually. But at this time, what I'm sharing with all of you is that that decision is not final. Once we know definitively what we are choosing to do, that will definitely be communicated with all of you. What I will say to all of you, if you have a child who that impacts directly, if your child's birthday falls between that June 3rd and September 1st date of 2025, I would absolutely love to talk with you all individually after this meeting, so I can maybe give some more information. But really just want to put that out there. I'm very aware that at our school sites, we have posted that September 1st date, but I really want to be open and transparent about the reasoning behind if we were to sort of pull back to that June 3rd date. Those are some of the reasons why. And again, more information to come with that. I'm happy to answer questions at the end as well. So that's really the eligibility piece of it. What we do want to say is that all students who are eligible for TK and kindergarten for the 25-26 year, enrollment is typically accommodated at your school at your neighborhood school, your school of residency, which Mr. Jones spoke to a little bit earlier. We are in the pre-registration phase right now, so we know we have many students already and families who have really reached out to their schools to at least show your interest. Officially, registration is not official until May, and Mr. Dawn will speak to that in a moment as well. But again, that is how we accommodate parents. It would definitely be based on your school of residency, your neighborhood school. In some occurrences, if we have, for example, 2 TK classes and at one school site, and we reach a point where both those classes are filled, there could be a situation where if there is space at our other elementary school, we may need to consider housing some of those students and have them enroll at the second elementary school. That would only occur if it got to the point where we were full and there was space at the second elementary school. Again, we want to go ahead and fill all the spaces we have at both of our TK programs at both of the sites before we would go ahead and make that decision to hire an additional teacher to open up an additional class. We do have board policy that speaks to the process by which those decisions are made. We are very cognizant of the fact that we want to be able to, number one, yes, accommodate families at their neighborhood school. We definitely are cognizant of the fact that if you are a parent or a guardian who has a sibling, an older sibling, you want to try and keep, both children together at the same school. So what we developed last year as part of our board policy was a list of priorities that really speak to how we prioritize making those decisions. So absolutely at the top of that list would be if you are a family and you already have a student who is attending that school, you would be placed first on that priority list. We try to prioritize always families who live within the district, first of all. And so if it is a new family coming in who you do not have an older sibling at that school site, that would be a little lower on the priority list. What I always want to, we always kind of say to families is that we're making that decision. If you are enrolled at a school other than your neighborhood school, would be for that year only. At the end of that year, you would have that option to return to your neighborhood school if space is available at that next grade level. We do also try to prioritize any of our teaching staff, our staff at, I don't want to say teaching, just all staff. If we have staff at a school site and they have a student that they want to try and enroll there, they are also placed on that priority list as well. So again, I can, without going through the actual, list of it, there is that whole policy. I'd be happy to answer the individual questions, with any family members who have that in the meeting. Yes, go ahead.
I was just wondering what class size is expected to be. What is it this year? And then what are you thinking it's going to be next
For
year?
TK.
For
Kindergarten
TK and kinder, yeah.
specifically. So kindergarten, our goal is 25 students in a class. That's what it is currently. That will remain. Our maximum would be 27 students. We really always try to stay within the framework of that 25 number. And that is with an additional, with an instructional aid in the classroom as well, that really is there to support learning.
My understanding is that kindergarten this year is not at 25 in both classrooms, or is that correct?
I'm not sure what the exact numbers are. We could, check on that later on, but it varies from year to year. And I mean, that is a little bit of where the unknown part is as we plan, right? If you look at the historical numbers, it just depends on the enrollment for that year. It can vary for sure. Yeah, but I don't have the exact numbers. I'm happy to answer that. Okay, so that was that. And so really, again, that whole policy would dictate that. I mentioned just a little earlier on pre-registration, that is what we are in the process of now. And so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Dawn, who is going to speak to what that process is and what's required for you to pre-register.
Thanks, Dr. Allison. Yeah, so the first week of May, as I mentioned, May 5th, if you've already pre-registered, you'll receive an email from the site you're registered through, which will give you the ability to activate your Parent View account. The information's there in the link as well. All documents will be uploaded to the district through that portal. There's an online form. It's on the landing page of both the elementary school sites. It's on the landing page. The landing page will direct you to those forms from the district's website as well. If you've already pre-registered, you've already utilized that form and you're basically telling us you plan to attend. We're looking at your students for 25-26 enrollment. The documents required to be registered in this district are, and again, we'll go through Parent View on that, child's birth certificate, up-to-date immunization record, and then one of the two in C, that's your proof of residency. That's going to be your current mortgage, property tax bill, or a current signed lease agreement. And then the second item, of course, that's required is another proof of residency item, which is your current utility bill that's dated within the most recent 30 days that shows that you're a resident in that location. All of that information will be screened through the sites back to my office where we process residency. And if at that time you're looking for an inter-district transfer, maybe you're an employee of the school district and you're moving your student into our district because our district does accommodate students from outside the school district if you're an employee of the district, or if you are looking to intra-district transfer your student from one school site to the other, those forms too will be processed, but they won't be finalized until literally 2 weeks before school starts. So just be aware of that. Questions about the registration process?
Hey, Josh, can you hear? I'm sorry, I'm online, so I'll wait. It looks like you got a question in the room. I'll wait.
We do, and I can hear you.
So is the intra-district transfer form go into Parent View, or do we send that to the school?
It's to the school site. They're held, they're processed, they're held, and then we review them and release them when we get ready to, because we're looking for initial placement, enrollment, and staffing ratios to be complete before we process that. The caller online.
Do you have the updated projected numbers for TK and Kinder, both for if we do include the younger learners and if we don't?
The projected district numbers, is that the question, or class size?
Class, pre-registration numbers for TK and Kinder for both sites.
Yeah, we don't have complete pre-registration confirmation yet because we're in the pre-registration process, and a lot of the documents that are required to register your child, we don't have yet. So it's really tough for us to say, okay, we now have a pre-registration packet, but we haven't verified residency yet. So it's kind of difficult to say what the numbers are at this point. That's why we wait to do that until after May 5th registration. TK class sizes are 24. They were 24 this year, and we're projecting at 24 next year per class.
In
Oh.
terms of sorry.
So
In terms-
after,
After May 5th.
In terms of determining the priority, you're talking about you try and get kids into the school that's in their neighborhood residency. When you deal with the transfer request, how does that priority work? Like, do you have priority based?
So intra-district transfers, which are moving your student from school site to school site, they are down on the list of priorities. We have a board policy that was adopted. You can find the information. I think it was on the previous slide. I don't know the number. So there's a list of priorities, but an intra-district transfer is low on the list. It's not usually, it is a resident of your home school. You have a sibling that attended previously, and then there's a few other down the list. But that's why intras are processed last.
I don't know how to word it, but does it matter? Like, if you register quickly, like right when it opens, does that determine your priority?
It does not. It does not. Yeah, pre-registration essentially is helping the district determine what the projected enrollment is going to look like for next year before we hit that May 5th timeline where you're registering your students.
Since the priority list has come up, before the end of the meeting, at some point, can you just put it up? I already checked the website. I couldn't find the list of priority hierarchy.
Sure.
Thank you.
The board policy. Okay. All right. Very good. Sure.
I think it was called some nerves, and maybe said like last year, for example, how many people had to do, like how many people who weren't in there, like if you were at Robert Down, how many people from lived in that district had to go to Forestville or vice versa? Like if you were just gonna use last year as an example, how many people had to do that?
There wasn't any. There wasn't any at the beginning of the school year.
Not at this grade level, no.
Right.
I think we may have had one or two at a different grade level, and upper grade level.
Yeah, in the middle of the year. we
Exactly.
had some
Thank you.
people who was
Thank you.
bigger, and then they, as our class size, I'll give you an example, first grade, we had 2 first grades and they were full. And so therefore, anyone that was above the maximum outlined in the contract, then we had to send them over to the fourth grade.
Thank you, Josh. And this is just follow up, some more registration, information that, will need to be provided. These, links to the health forms are available on the website. And I also, want to let everybody know that this slideshow will be, made available on the district website as well. So you can access these slides. When we come to that decision about the cutoff date, we'll update the slide and make sure that it reflects the decision that was made. So these are just 2 forms. One's the health exam for school entry, and also the oral health assessment form. I've created on this slideshow QR codes for each one. So here's a QR code for the health exam on the next slide. And then we have a QR code as well for the oral health assessment form. Again, all of this information can be found on the website and will be posted on this slideshow this week. Wanting to hand it over back to the site principals to talk a little bit about volunteering.
We love having volunteers and we encourage all of you to get fingerprinted at our district office as quickly as possible. If that way you're able to come on campus and join us with just greater ease. Teachers always have things for you to be able to do or small groups and field trips to be part of. So please, we encourage you to get that fingerprinting done so that you're able to come on campus more often. We love seeing you.
I think the other thing is if you have already been fingerprinted and cleared, you do not need to go through that process again. So if you're currently, for example, volunteering in our preschool program, then you don't have to go through that process. The other thing I also want to just remind you, if you wouldn't mind making sure that you have an arrangement with the teacher before you come and volunteer. We really try to make sure that when volunteers are showing up, that we have something that they're prepared to have you support with. Sometimes it's hard when a parent says, I'm here to volunteer, and there wasn't a prior arrangement made. So that's one thing that we just asked for, but we love having all of you come in and support us. Just found out I have 70 volunteers and chaperones coming on a whale watching trip tomorrow.
Sounds amazing. Our office is always a happy buzz when everyone shows up, so please get that done early so you're not disappointed if you walk into the office and are told, I'm sorry, we can't have you today.
I think the only other thing is when you come in, the first time that you come in to volunteer or come onto campus, there is a new little kiosk. So just plan for a couple of extra minutes for that processing, because there is gonna be some time for you to present your ID, and then after that, it should be pretty quick.
And we also, can we flip the slides up? Sorry, I know we also have dual computers going. Thank you. We also would love to share a little more about our before and after school recreation program. Sometimes it's been called a few different things. So if it's confusing, we apologize. We're transitioning from calling it before and after school recreation program, or BASRP, to Monarch Club. So right now, sometimes those names are used interchangeably. If you're ever confused about what we're referring to, please ask. Sometimes we speak in our educator talk, and
We've got lots of acronyms.
yes, yeah, for everything. So never be afraid to ask. You're not supposed to know what they mean, by the way, unless you work with us. We have BASRP that's every single day. It starts at 7 a.m. until school starts and ends at 6 p.m. each night. You can come for any fraction, or your child can come for any fraction of it, and it's paid.
They pay, so
Sorry, we're also switching that party.
So, right now, if you are on free or reduced lunch and you qualify for that, so far our district has been able to offer that for free. However, if you are not a free and reduced lunch family, there is a nominal fee. We are exploring what the cost will be next year.
And are we still staying with the every 15-minute fee or hourly?
For next year, it's still to be determined.
Okay, we are in flux on that one.
The other thing to also keep in mind is many of you have older students, but you have your TK and K students, and they may get out earlier. That is available. So the TK-K students actually have Monarch Club to themselves until the older kids come. And so if you have an older student and you want to pick them up together, that is very much a possibility.
So that whole first hour, starting at around 2 o'clock, both of our sites are out about 5 minutes difference from each other. But around 2 o'clock, our TKers and kinders are out, and from 2 to 3:10-ish, they are all on their own in Monarch Club. So please know that it's very TK and kinder friendly during that time. It's still friendly for the rest of the time, but we also have our additional students up to 5th grade.
At this time, we are not offering Monarch Club during the school breaks and the days that schools are out. So just keep that in mind when you are planning your calendar for next year.
Oftentimes it's much cheaper than a babysitter though, too.
Absolutely.
So it's a great resource to use, and you don't have to use it every day. You can use it some days and not others.
I was just gonna, is it something you sign up for specifically, or is it literally if you're, you've done the paperwork, your kid's there?
There is a sign up process, and more information will be given to all families.
But you sign up once and then you can show up as needed after that initial sign up. Just us too.
Yeah. So TK and K, things that you can work on. A lot of times families want to know, hey, what can we work on before they come into TK and kindergarten? One thing is our children are learning to use their words, and we want to encourage them to constantly use their words and not their hands. We know that a lot of times children communicate in a variety of ways, and so that's something that we'll keep working on as they develop. This is something in preschool, this is something in TK, and in kindergarten as well.
We are definitely happy to take your student with as many skills as they have, or with as many skills that still need to be built. Please know that. But these are just helpful tips as you move into the fall, just that you can keep working on at home. Having your students advocate for themselves is great. So letting us know if they need to use the restroom or get a drink of water, even unzipping their backpack is a big one. Or knowing how to open up their juice in their lunchbox. That's something to practice over the summer.
And there are always adults there to
Yes.
always help them to open up their milk or help them with some of those things. But I think kids feel really proud when they're able to open up their own lunch and they're able to navigate all the pieces of their meals and their snacks.
A big one to really start working on is potty training. We always have our school nurse that's ready to help support, but it's a lot easier for your student if they're able to use the restroom in the classroom, take care of business, and come back and rejoin the class without having someone have to help them.
And on top of that, we also always have a full cabinet full of extra clothing should
Yes.
there be an accident. And we have our school nurse health aide that's always available to help support them with that too. And, you know, accidents do happen and it's okay.
Completely okay. And our nurses are absolutely wonderful about not shaming our students when they do happen. And it's such a positive experience for your kiddos, so don't worry. Teaching your kiddos to be able to say goodbye to you and walk into the classroom with a smile without tears is a big one. You probably will see some tears that first week, and that's okay. I promise the tears normally stop about 2 minutes after you walk away. But just getting them used to being able to be handed off is really amazing and gives them so much power.
Yeah, I mean, my first grader still cried when he was on his first day of first grade, so it's okay.
After breaks, you might see a regression in that. You may see a few more tears too. That's totally normal. And I promise as soon as you're out of eye shot, they're good. A great thing that you can do is just come over to our campuses on the weekends. They're open to the public. Come play on the playground. Get them used to just being in that environment. It takes a lot of their first day jitters away.
I think another key thing is to learn to follow directions from an adult that they trust. You know, knowing that it's important to listen to the adult in the classroom, I think is a really good skill to have when they come into TK and kindergarten.
Even when it's something that they don't necessarily want to do. So helping to guide them through that process of, yes, we do have to come in from playing. That can be a big one. Or yes, we are going to try writing the letter A today.
Yeah,
All of
trying
their
new things.
activities are on the smaller end. We don't do anything for hours on end. So just getting them that resilience of trying something without a tantrum is awesome.
And just trying new things, that it's okay if you don't do it, if you don't know how to do it yet. The idea is that we are here to support them in growing in every aspect.
And we see kids, I know our teachers can definitely attest to this. We will see students who come in a variety of levels, and that is completely okay. We are ready to meet them where they're at. So please don't stress out if they don't know their ABCs. Please don't stress out if they can't count. That's what we're here for. Really just work on getting them excited about coming to school and hype that up for us. That's all that we really need.
And I just want to give a shout out to all of you. Thank you so much for just being prepared as parents to come and learn more about the TK and kindergarten expectations and program.
We already have such great families that are about to join us. We're super lucky.
Yeah, super excited to have you all join us.
I think we're on questions.
I think so.
Before we go to questions, can we just put our hands together for these brilliant and wonderful leaders? And we have so many experts in the room, so we wanted to open it up for questions. If you have any questions about our TK Kinder program.
There any screen exposure in the classroom?
Screen exposure in the classroom. I think, can any of the teachers speak to screen exposure in the classroom? Let's start with TK. Sorry. The question is there any screen exposure in the classroom?
No, well, not one-on-one. No, they would like there to be, but there's not. For Forest Grove, I think, we actually even pushed off. I actually get the vibe from parents, let's put it that way. When parents come to back to school night, I have a lot of concerns about screen time. And I had more concerns about screen time than not, So that led me to be cautious. And we didn't even introduce the screen in the form of iPad until maybe we've been 4 times, 5 times. So it was late, right before spring started. So I navigate the class, and I think that probably everybody else is too, whatever the class is up for.
Yeah, very little one-to-one like iPad screen time. We do have like a smart board, something like that, that will project guided dancing and things like that, but not like sitting them in the corner. With an iPad. And TK.
And we also have been making a concerted effort to limit screen time in classrooms across the district. So,
We have a no phone policy.
pardon?
A no phone policy in the school.
Yes, yes.
So,
At the, are you talking about in the classrooms
and outside the classroom.
at the elementary schools? Yes,
Throughout.
yes.
And no.
No phone policy, no phone like in the classrooms. Can you want to?
I just wanted to address screen time in the sense that kindergarten does attend the computer lab once a week. And that is done with guided practice and help, and it's more to get them to understand how to use the mouse, how to use an iPad, but it's only once a week or half an hour, maybe 40 minutes, it depends. So it is for kindergarten to get them ready for first grade, to use some of the applications that are there, and that's what's happening in kindergarten. Yes, Mr. Binder. All right.
Online?
Yeah, question. I'm sorry, can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
It's echoing a little bit, but that works. So this year, the students at Robert Down TK did not get daily PE from a credentialed PE teacher. What is the plan for PE at both of the sites next year?
Currently working, Emily and I are currently working together to get a more aligned approach across both sites. We're not sure quite what that looks like yet, but we are seeking alignment.
So we're in the master scheduling process right now. And one of the things we'll be doing this year to enable that alignment is collaborating around the master schedule at both sites with paying specific attention to PE.
And is there a chance that they do, but both sites do not get PE from a credentialed PE student? Is that on, or credentialed PE teacher, is that on the table?
At this time for PE, it is not a requirement for TK. I just want to, be very clear on that. We are fortunate that we are a district who has a full-time PE teacher at both of our elementary school sites, which I am going to say, having worked in other districts, that is very rare and wonderful. For TK, there are also no requirements as to what that daily allotment is, through what is mandated. So I think what we are definitely committed to for next year is that as we're developing that master schedule, it will be determined that it will be equal at both of our school sites. We absolutely, our intention right now is to, since we have a qualified PE teacher, that our PE teacher of record would be the one delivering PE. As far as how many minutes and how often, how many times a day, that would be something we will determine with both of the school sites and across the district, right, to establish those norms. And that will be communicated at the beginning of next year as to what that would be. But we definitely, I think we recognize the need for daily instruction and daily movement in the area of PE. And so that will absolutely be a priority as we do that. I think before we take another question, there was a question about cell phones that I want to be sure that we have the opportunity to answer. And I'm going to just ask Principal Arbrin to give that response right now, and then we'll go on to the next.
I just wanted to share our current practice with cell phones at Forest Grove is we ask our students to keep them often in their backpack during the school day. We understand that, well, I haven't ran into a TK or a kinder kiddo with one yet. If they do need them after school, they can be powered on after school, and any student that's also wearing a smartwatch, we do ask that it's in school mode or powered off throughout the day. If they are seen playing with it, then they'll be asked to turn it off. If they're asked again, then it goes for a little ride to my office with a sticky note and I give you a call and just say, hey, we're using this inappropriately today. Instead of doing our math or letter practice, will you please come and pick it up?
Does that mean that cell phones are allowed during the Monarch Club?
Probably not, because that's considered during their school day.
Okay.
But if there's, I do want to assure you, if your child ever asks to call you, I'm going to pull them into my office or into Nurse Natalie's office and we're gonna call you. So please don't worry, like,
No,
if
no,
your
they don't
child's
know.
worried about. Granny will ask why they're calling. It's more typical of my 4th and 5th graders if they're worried about something. But if you have an important message to our office staff, is more than happy to take it and relay it over to your kiddo, like for pickup changes or anything like that.
Most of the time, the requests are at the end of the day, if they have a question about where they're supposed to be after school, or if they could go to a friend's house or something like that. I have gotten some of those. And so I just bring them to the front office at the end of the day, and then we arrange for them to make, or we make a phone call on their behalf.
So I'm just not fully understanding the PE teacher situation. I understand it's not mandated, but if you already have a PE teacher, why would you not have them do a PE lesson with TK once a week or twice a week?
And definitely it would be, we just don't, they will be doing their lessons. It's just we haven't determined exactly how often and whether it will be every day. All of our grades currently, you know, for sure kindergarten through 5th grade receive PE instruction every day, 13 minutes, I believe. And so that is currently what's in place. And, you know, when we rolled out our TK classes this year, last year for sure, TK were getting the same amount. But as our students are becoming younger, you know, we're really needing to kind of look at what the developmentally appropriate requirements and amount of time would be for that age group. And so those are just decisions I think we've got to make as our program adjusts. You know, as we said at the beginning, you know, there's been that phase-in rollout over the last few years where our TK students have been getting younger and younger. For us to just, you know, do a blanket statement that, you know, they're all going to be continuing to get 30 minutes of PE every day. There are developmentally, you know, appropriate considerations that we need to, you know, take into account as we make those decisions. And that would be, whatever we do, it would be according to the best interests of the students and what's age appropriate for them. I think one thing that we, you know, hadn't been prepared for this year at one particular school, which was, we did need to make some adjustments, was really just a larger number of students in the class, an additional class, all of them out there together. And really, when you're looking at the two sides, we always approach any decisions we make and really trying to be as aligned as possible and as consistent as possible. But we also realize that we have two different sites and the needs of each of those sites are different. And sometimes we need to make, you know, adjustments in accordance. I think what we have realized this year is that with PE in particular, we definitely are moving forward, want to be aligned in with being consistent with what we're providing to students at those schools.
And I will say I have worked in 5 different districts, and I think there was only one other district that had dedicated PE teachers at the elementary level. And even for them, it was PE with the PE specialist like once a week. So it's a really great privilege to have that, because most of the time it is the classroom teacher that's responsible for delivering the PE instruction as multiple subject teachers. So that is a great asset that we have here in Pacific Grove.
And we do recognize as the students are getting younger, the greater need for play-based instruction.
Okay.
So I think that that's kind of what's related to that question.
Excuse me, so if we have a child that we want to be with the same teacher as their older sibling, how do we make that request? Point that to one of our principals.
I can't fully speak for Robert Down, but I know we're pretty similar in that. Please just shoot us an email with your preferences. I will tell you now, we can't say that, yes, you will have that teacher, but we will do our best to ensure that any separations from students that should occur will. And we'll be working closely with our teacher teams to be able to build those classes as school starts. We'll do our best, but can't guarantee. As that comes secondary after we build them to make sure that they're equitable.
Me? You were talking about PE. What's sort of the schedule with recess and pre-play? And just in general, because I know with TK kids, they're very young. So how much of it is your learning and how much of it is free play and how much is just your free recess?
So our PE program, I can only speak for the PE program at Robert Down, but it's a pretty comprehensive scope and sequence. So there's some foundational skills that they're typically working with. However, I do know that our TK teachers know that our TK kids need a lot more movement. And so there are some additional minutes of free play because that actually helps them with their brain development also at that age. And so we incorporate that on top of the regular recess time as well.
What is the recess time? Like how much?
So
of the
they
time
have
do
10 minutes. It's 10 minutes in the morning, but then there's an additional period that the teachers providing. And then, hi. And then there's another, I guess it would be the 30 something minutes, 35 minutes, 37 after the lunch. And because our TK and K students go home a little earlier, they don't have that additional 10-minute one in the late afternoon in terms of formal scheduled recess. But I say this with a caveat that I know that our teachers provide additional time on the playground for students to be able to really move around and just develop those psychomotor skills a little bit more, climbing, playing, interacting with one another.
Yeah. Yes. I think. We all are very experienced in is meeting the kids where they're at. And we know that there might be an off day in March where we need a lot more recess. So we need to have a longer playtime in class. And we also, excuse me, can balance that. And then we know like, okay, today's the day where we can work a little bit harder. Also knowing that August looks very different than April. And so I think that's the beauty of TK and K is that we do have that flexibility. And that we do allow them to have as much playtime as they need while building their stamina throughout. Is that kind of what you were asking? Okay, that's right.
I think we had a question online.
Yes. Yes. Hi. So my 4-year-old son will be hopefully attending Forest Grove this coming school year. We were wondering like how the curriculum kind of is. Obviously, you know, they're 4 and 5 years old. And how that looks throughout the day and what the exact hours are, like 8:30 start, and then like how the day looks for them.
So at Forest Grove, we have an 8:40 start and a 1:55 end time.
And at Robert Down, it's 8:45 to 2 o'clock. In terms of the curriculum pieces, I'm actually going to invite our TK. You said your child is entering TK, correct?
Yes. Yeah. He'll be in TK.
Yeah, like what does a typical day look like?
We definitely are meeting the kids where they're at. The curriculum at the beginning of the school year does look very different. At the end of the school year, we're going to do a little bit more stuff. And I think, I feel like the team would agree. We offer opportunities and invitations. So we'll have an exploration of the letter with a number. And then the students, because we know developmentally, they're going to take what they are ready for. And so we just kind of lay the foundation. We put out the invitations for learning, and they take what they're ready for. And we do have curriculum. We have curriculum for math, solid math, and we have happily ever after in Super Kids. But again, we're taking bits in TK, taking bits and pieces of it and offering it as an invitation, making it play and movement based, and making it really fun. So it isn't sitting there at the desk working on something, really getting it done. We're going to have them move, walk the figure 8 before you need to make the Play-Doh. So we're really looking for ways to get them involved in that way, and also really approaching it as an invitation that they can take from what they need to at that developmental stage.
TK is a wonderful first exposure to everything that they'll see again in kinder at a heightened level. So please know that they'll be exposed to letter sounds, numbers, even some math problems that start going. but it's just that initial exposure that gives them kind of the front loading for kindergarten. So please don't think as you see things that they need to master them fully. It really is about exposure and getting them used to being at school and taking everything in that they can.
And I will also say that besides the academics, one big piece of it is the social emotional learning part of it and learning self-regulation and executive functioning and how to follow direction. So there's a lot in addition to the academic piece, that's part of the TK program as well.
I was just wondering if you could walk us through what the kindergarten experience consists of, like what's different, what was described, and just help us for parents who are starting in kinder.
Would you love to take that away?
You got it. I guess I got voted in. No, I don't mind. Well, I want to say at Robert Down, kindergarten starts as a soft opening at 8:30. We open up our doors at 8:30. And so we allow for a soft opening so that they come into the classroom rather than having them play out on the playground for that first 15 minutes. But officially, we do start at 8:45. They're considered late. 8:45, but anyhow, and then we end our day at 2. And then as far as curriculum goes, our current adoption that we have is Super Kids, which I hope to keep. So I just want to make them know that. I'd like to keep it another 2 years for sure, but that's what it is. But Super Kids starts off with basically a letter of the week. And then it moves on through, and right now at this point, I'm really impressed. I'm having kinders that are pretty much reading 2 syllables and 3 syllable words with blends and inflected endings, and they're doing amazing. And as far as our math program, it's SWAN, and they start off with number 1, and it goes on, and then we build on the teen skills, and then we build on addition and subtraction later on, and geometry then is introduced as well and embedded in that. And we have a social studies program and a science program as well. And that's just brought in, and of course, a lot of opportunity for free choice time, because that is the height of child development, is being able to make a choice and stick with it. So we're happy to share that. If I forgot anything, please. Did I? Woo, I did it. I graduated. Thank you.
I'm curious how you build the classrooms, like in teacher assignment, are you looking at ages of the kids who are registered, vendor, making it even, or like older kids are in one classroom? There's a problem.
So I think the question is really about scheduling, yeah.
It depends on the year. We really look to balance out gender. We look to balance out ages as much as we can. And we do bring our teacher teams in, it's helpful, especially in kinder when we've had those students in TK. So our TK teachers will help to build those classes as well to ensure that they're fair and equitable across the grade. And then we'll layer in any new students that we get to. And with TK, I know that we are really trying to look at age and gender primarily because we don't know a whole lot about their academic background yet.
You have any online? We do, we got 2 people in.
Yes, for TK, is there any sort of like sensory resource that the kids can go to if they're overwhelmed or they're having any sort of issues? I know at the preschool over here on David, they have a little OT room for the kids if they're getting overwhelmed. I don't know if there's anything like that at TK.
So we do have some school-wide resources in addition to some classroom ones. We have our school counselor that's able to go into classrooms at least twice a month, which is amazing. But we also, on campus at Forest Grove, we have a de-escalation room. So any student who's really just having a very tough time, we have a nice quiet spot for them to go to. My office is always a resource for our kiddos that are having a tough time too. I promise not to make it scary. I haven't had a child yet who's afraid to come in there, so We're always that resource, and then most classrooms do have a quiet corner or some sensory objects. We also do have an OT room where there's lots of de-escalation things, but.
We have a similar setup at Robert Down. We have a de-escalation area, we have an occupational therapy room. And then within each of the classrooms, the teachers have done a really fabulous job of creating those calming spaces, those break spaces, as well as providing sensory activities kind of in different parts of the day.
Tom Post.
Yeah, going back to the fact that some students might not get placed in the school that they're registering for or pre-registering for. At what point do you determine to hire another teacher versus bus the students to a different school?
It's a good question, and you're getting some,
Yeah.
you know, lots of heads in the room with that question as well. You know, I think it really would, once we for certain can, you know, guarantee the fact that yes, all of our current classes are filled to our, you know, capacity. If we are going over that number, you know, 2 to 3 students, I mean, essentially, because especially at TK, we cannot go over that ratio of 24 students in a class. And so we would absolutely, we even get, you know, we got to 25 students, we are required at that point to then go ahead and, you know, add another class. So it really just depends on the numbers, but typically, you know, at the kindergarten level, it would be when we're over 2 or 3 students. I will say, you know, that decision very likely is usually made, and I know this is not going to be popular, and it's not what you want to hear, but, you know, really at the beginning of the year, even once we have started school, because even though we may have the registration numbers in the summer, and, you know, this happened, you know, it happens every year, but, you know, you may not have all of those students show up on the first day, right? So we do tend to wait if we're making that decision, and it is only 2 to 3 students, we would probably, you know, wait until for sure, you know, we can be guaranteed that that number is there. But it's typically, you know, a little over the number that we have.
So you'll fill all the existing teachers to capacity, but then will you look at which school has more pre-registrations and then put the teacher there?
I see where your question is going. So yes, that would likely be how we'd make that decision. If we had, you know, the majority of the students at one school, you know, that would probably determine where the additional class would be open. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Have you ever had to deny enrollment to students due to lack of availability?
We cannot deny enrollment. We are obligated, if we're offering that program, we have to take every student that, you know, comes in who, you know, is living within our attendance.
I was just curious, when do you find out, like, here's your class, here's your teacher? Is that like after registering? Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself.
No, not at all. I mean, that's a great question to know. I don't know. I mean, the dates on that. Okay, Principal Aubrey, go ahead.
So we have a meet and greet at Forest Grove that is typically the Friday before school starts or a few days before school starts. And your class list will be posted probably around noon that day. I know it's scary to wait. I promise whoever you get, you're going to absolutely love. So please breathe easy, but you'll actually be able to come in at Forest Grove and meet them the day before. So you'll have a soft landing that next morning.
I think that's specific to the teacher. I think the question was also, you were asking, when will you know which school your child has been registered at, right? And where you'll be taking them. So I think those decisions are really, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
June, July, right?
Yeah. Historically, it's been June. You know, in the past couple of years, it's been a little bit later, unfortunately, because as Dr. Adamson mentioned, you know, we do have a military population here that attends our schools, and we get maybe a high registration, pre-reg and registration numbers, and then we don't realize those students. You know, I say day one, that we're going to know before day one. And that's when we make the determination about intra-district transfers, shifting of students that may be moved or placed back to their home school. But, and that didn't happen this year. I think we had it, you know, at one grade level, there might have been 8 or 9 students that just did not show up, but we knew about it a week or 2 before school started.
What are the meal periods like school lunch, snacks, all that? What are we bringing, not bringing peanuts? I don't know.
So our TK and kinder students typically eat before our first and fifth grade students. Our TK and kinder teachers and instructional assistants really help to escort the students in and support them with that process. We do offer free meals, and our fabulous nutrition services director is actually here. I will say that they do a fabulous job of, like, if your child has allergies, there will be, you know, there may be some additional like options, like, for example, if your child's allergic to dairy or cheese or something like that, then they can have a taco without cheese, or, you know, something that will fit within their dietary restriction. We do also have salad bars, salad and fresh fruit and salad, all the time, and that's always an option also. Students are also welcome to bring their own lunch and their own snack. We do not serve peanuts. So here's one of the complications of things. We have students who are allergic to nuts, and then we have other students who depend on nuts for their protein source. And we have to figure out a way to make accommodations for both. And so what we have done at Robert Down is I have a nuts table. Like, if you have brought nuts, you know, there's a section here, and then there's also a no nuts if they are really, really allergic. Typically by the time they're in older grades, they're pretty aware of the different allergies. And so they are able to navigate that themselves, but our teachers are also really wonderful at finding out, you know, what we have 504s for those who have like severe allergies. But there's always adults there to help them and navigate through, like, opening of containers, opening up milks. There's a spill. We gently bring them through that process of learning to do that independently as the year goes on.
Follow on to that, are there any, if the lunch is sent into the school, any hard line you cannot send it, like actually peanut butter, pick a different nut butter kind of thing?
Don't put a big bag of candy in there.
Well, no, I mean.
Distributing a big bag of candy. Yes.
No.
No, there was a big family size bag of sour watermelon that we're going around.
That's not where I was going. Okay, and then part two, are there any best practice or recommended alternatives to peanut butter or other highly allergic things that the school would prefer? Yes, I know you know. That's not.
There's some really good like seed butters that are out there. That would be a great alternative to nut butters.
I'd like to speak about the food allergy situation, and I just wanted to compliment our food service and our ladies behind the counter, because I got a new student just this year from the LA Fire. She moved up, and she is a gluten-free child, and our cafeteria ladies pivoted like pros, and they accommodated her right away and made her feel so welcome, because now she gets to eat lunch going through school lunch, and that has been her thing that she wanted to do at her previous school. And then the choices of the fresh fruits and vegetables, they cut it up for them. I mean, I've seen Julie out there with the apple slicer, slicing the apples, and she taught me how to use it. So, I mean, we really are pushing for the fresh fruits and vegetables and all of that, but our cafeteria ladies are amazing, and I just really appreciate them. And I appreciate Mr. Silvera always being there helpful and providing those choices for the children that do have allergies.
And to follow up, if there is a class that ends up with a severe allergy, that class may operate differently.
Yes.
In TK, in the past, I've had very, very highly allergic children, and that class becomes, we invite the families to become nut free. If somebody forgets, we don't make the kids starve, but, so it's not a hard line unless it becomes a hard line because of the population.
Because it's a life and death situation.
So best practices are kids or food you know your kid will eat, especially the first week.
I've had the privilege of going into the classes and, questioning the kids about the local control accountability plan. And, whenever I'm in the younger kids' classrooms, the first thing that they start talking about is the food. And, you know, everything from, like, where'd the chicken nuggets go? Or like, why are we getting beans in the pasta? But they have so many opinions. But I wanted to, let everybody know that the common denominator between everything they're saying is the kids love the food in our district. If you have older kids that are already in the district, you know that. I mean, the food is incredible. And I don't want to finish this part of the conversation before I allow Director Silvera to say something. He is our food director, nutrition director, and I want to hand it over to him.
Yeah, just a couple notes in the comments. Nothing that we serve from our kitchen has peanuts or tree nuts or made in a facility that contains that. Everything in our program is well documented nowadays. So like every spec will have whether we're allowed to serve that or not. On our website, our menu's broken down. It has every allergen, every calorie, every sugar, every information that you may want to see on there. So that's all. And a printed, printable paper version that I try to talk to you guys a little bit to make it a little more human instead of just, 30 days on a calendar. So everything's available on there. Some students that I've had some like egg issues. They don't know the extent of the egg they can have. And some of our breakfast breads do have it. If you want to try it at home in a safer environment with a little bit, just let us know. We'll give you guys samples to see if they like it, because we want them eating with us, And lastly, we talked about free and reduced lunch. It gets a little bit confusing because we're still run by federally. So they make us go through the same wording, but in California, we have a universal free meal program. So you'll still hear, everyone can eat free every meal, but you'll still hear that we have to use terminology like free and reduced price because it gets tied to so many different other programs, but everyone eats free. And I think that's everything that I care about.
Be a question for closer to the actual first day of school, but for the teachers, what does the first day look like if you have a student that's having a hard time with drop off? Is it like a hard and fast, like parents, you gotta go? Okay.
I mean. Yeah.
We all have a team, but then we have even more age number very clean.
Oh, that's right.
We have
Like all the
like
support staff.
all hands on deck, every support staff member that is available, come down to walk them to us. We let the parents come on our first few days.
Yep.
So there's so many people and safe grown-ups, and we play outside before school. So they're willing to come to the classroom, but they see the playground, they see people we know, get us from preschool. So I feel like we have so many
wraparound
support that.
It's not anything we've never seen. So I think like we're all like super like priors don't worry us.
Yeah.
They don't worry us. Like we're like, I know you're gonna show mommy. I can too. Like it's gonna be way harder on you than it is on them.
Yeah,
I promise.
You may cry more than them, but I promise it'll be okay on both ends. But we definitely will make sure that they're supported that first year. I think every single available staff member, myself included, will float through kinder and TK that whole first week. And then that first break, we tend to do it again just because we know it's hard to go back to being at home and getting all the love and then going back and having to work again.
But then there are some years where you don't have to have that support as much, and they all just come in and they are happy and they sit and they do. I've had that this year, but I've had other years where you had 2 or 3 criers, so. Yeah, so that's what's happened in the past.
It gets better each day. Please know that.
Is there a nap time in kindergarten?
For us.
For everyone
For us. There is downtime, throughout as needed. You kind of gauge your class and you watch. You see how they're going. If they're yawning and sleep, like, okay, let's read a story. Let's play some soft music. Let's talk about things. Let's do things like that. And then then they kind of wake up a little bit more and then they're ready on for the next step. So
I'm really excited for this. Because my son stays up so late now.
Mom's like, next to nap.
So that was one of our goals, was to make everybody tonight feel welcome to our program and to feel excited about the program. Are there any last questions that we have?
Beat a dead horse, but I'd really like to see the priority list if you can pull it up.
You wanna do that? or-
that's great.
It's linked to them.
I think it's already linked
And I think what we will do is based on what we've heard tonight, we are going to link that tomorrow morning to, so it's already up on the website, the school website, and then our website as well. So that way you can easily, access it, but,
Look at your instructor.
there we are.
Oh, God. I didn't recognize you.
All right, but essentially, this is it in, sort of snapshot. So I think first priority, students who reside in the neighborhood school boundary area, first priority. Second would be students with siblings whose residence is in their neighborhood school boundary area. And then really there is a list of placements for IDT, that's inter-district transfers, right, Mr. Dawn? I always get intra and thank you, intra. And then that really kind of just speaks to where I talked about, we've got an additional list now, but those first two are really kind of the top two, elements that we take into account. Like I said, we will make sure this is linked to our sites, along with this presentation as well, will all be available on the website tomorrow.
If you're an only child, then does that mean your child's more likely going to be transferred?
So let's say, based on this priority list, if this is their first introductory and they're not currently attending,
Yeah.
and yes,
Yeah, TK.
yes, that they would not be at the number one priority. And so depending on how many students we have, yes, there's a likelihood of that, right? If there are more students that fall into that category than we need, what the language we have is that we would look at that as a lottery to really kind of determine out of that number, and if everyone, to kind of break a tie kind of thing, right? Yeah. And I know, I understand that that's not, all I can say is, we have two incredible programs at both of our school sites. We have to make some of those hard decisions sometimes, and we don't know if next year is going to be together, we need to do that. But, at the same time, in order for us to continue to be giving the incredible programs that we do and maintain the level that we do here at PGUSD, there is a fiscal component with that. And, it would not be fiscally responsible decisions to just be haphazardly, opening up additional classes when we have the space availability at our other school sites. And
Can you scroll that down to one, please? Pull it up or down.
Are there talks about the benefits of small class sizes? Because I know a lot of people, we have so many options in this area. There's Monterey Bay Charter, or there's so many private schools. And to have a small class really does attract families, and it really does make families want to go to your school. So is that part of the discussion at all, to have the small class size because the children actually benefit from it?
But I think already the size that we have already determined, 25 at kinder, right, and 24.
Well, it seems like right now, it seems like the class sizes are much smaller this year.
And like I said, I think that really varies from year to year, right, depending on what our enrollment is. So there may be years where we're fortunate enough that it's, yes, it is smaller and we're not having to make, decisions like that. Again, we can't, it's a projection, right, based on, what we have. And even now with our pre-registration numbers, there's no guarantee of, what we're seeing. There may be additional families come in during the summer. Some of those families may, drop off, right? So it's decisions we have to take all of that into account. But
yeah, I guess my other thought too is that then you have teachers that are waiting to find out. You can lose, valuable teachers that have been in your district that work well together. So if they don't know if they're going to have a job or not, then we lose wonderful teachers, and you're hiring someone at the last minute. So just wondering what the benefit of that is for our school district.
That's a reality. You're absolutely right. That's not, and like I said, that's why it's not a situation we choose, right, to be in. And so all of that is taken into account as we're making those hard decisions. I totally hear you, and your points are
valid and well taken, and probably agreement in the room, you know, for that. Again, it comes down to us as an administration. Sometimes we do have to make some of those hard decisions to maintain our overall program fiscally. You know, we've just gone through a situation this year where we are needing to look at our budget and our expenses. We've had to make, you know, some tough reductions, and all of that, you know, plays into that larger discussion. We have to be fiscally responsible first and foremost, right, in order to be able to provide and meet the needs of our students, right? Without that, you know, we wouldn't have the program we do. So, but I completely hear you. Thank you for stating it, and, you know, it's well said and well heard. Yeah. Go ahead, yeah.
Is there any priority about like, your proximity to the school, like if you're like 2 blocks east? Or
It's
I'm sorry,
not-
west, and it's like, would be so
I
far
hear
from-
you, that would be right, but that's not an area that we've identified for our priority list. This is really what has been determined and approved through our board policy. And so, you know, these are the priorities that we follow.
Dr. Adamson, can I jump in on the transfer piece?
Please, sure.
Yeah, please, I just wanted to calm your fears too. I know Emily can say this as well. Initially, if you're told, the transfers are very few, but in every single transfer that we've had, the family does not want to leave. So I promise you will be wrapped with love. You may not be able to walk the 2 blocks to school, but you won't want to give either side of once you join us. Please have that peace in your heart.
Oh, Abby, I love that you said that. That's so, so important and so true.
So one thing, just from Ally asked that her student, if she resides in the neighborhood school district, but she wouldn't be first priority, but that was said, first priority placement, students who reside in the neighborhood school boundary area will have first priority for placement. Second priority placement, students with siblings whose residence in the neighborhood school boundary will be given second priority. So it's she was the type that she was having an only child coming first. It looks like those people are first priority. Is that?
That's what
not,
it says.
not what it really means?
That's what it says.
That's what it
And
says.
It was said in reverse. And what are the neighborhood school boundaries? Because that was not highlighted on Josh Dorn's map that he had shared.
I mean, it's essentially Cynics,
Cynics.
right?
Cynics, thank you.
Above Cynics, as far as Grove, south of Cynics would be, drop it down there.
Thank you.
And this is not the actual policy which we've linked to a district, so I think we did a summary of that, so I'll make sure and determine that. Again, what we will do is we'll go ahead and I think, make sure that
It's actually.
Oh, it's not.
it's a summary of what we had on what there was in on the board agenda. that we
thank
done.
you.
So we'll make sure that that's aligning with it. But please check, it is the actual policy, it will be posted on your, on website and on our registration page. You know, we're sure we're gonna take that as of tomorrow morning. Okay, yeah. Please, sure, go ahead.
I just want to let you know that we do have representatives from both TAs over there. And I do invite you to get involved in the Parent Teacher Association. There are so many great activities that they help to sponsor. They help to raise funds to support our schools. One of the things that you may have heard about is school supplies. It is not an obligation for families to provide school supplies. However, should you decide that you want to help to donate school supplies to the classrooms, there is something called, and both school sites are using this company, First Day School Supplies, and there will be some additional information that's coming out. We do have the list of requests from classroom teachers.
Any final questions? Well, thank you, everybody. If we could please put our hands together for all of these wonderful. And put your hands together for yourselves for being here. Thank you so much. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions.
There we go. So I'll just stop.